What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Pure Elite Gaming, back at you with yet another one. And today, I'm going to be listing off my favorite top 5 retro games of all time. This idea for this video is going to be brought to you by my friend, The Real Tay. She brought this idea to me, and I was like, that's a darn good idea. I'm going to jump on that immediately. So I'm gonna get started with number 5 on my list. That's gonna be Tekken 5. Man, the memories I have of Tekken 5, man. Like, for one, Tekken 5 is my favorite Tekken out of all the Tekkens in the series. And the memories I have of Tekken 5 are so spectacular. I mean, me and my buddies, there were so many late nights where we used to, stay up and play that game. And man, that was the first ever Tekken that I truly became what is known back then was the Tekken Lord. And that was the game that I figured out that, you can't just use one character in order to be good, in order to, be successful in that game, in order to pop off as many victories as you can, And I would say my gaming as a fighting gamer increased when that game came out, because man, that game really forced me to step it up. Me and the fellas used to really get it in. There became a point in time where they couldn't beat me. Yeah, I said it because it happened. Now, number 4 on this list is gonna be one of my favorite RPG games of all time, and that's gonna be Breath of Fire. The original Breath of Fire on the Super Nintendo. Now let me tell you about this game. I remember when my mom first bought that game for me, and I remember thinking man, what is this game mama done bought me? Hey man, what is a Breath of Fire? Let me tell you what Breath of Fire is. Breath of Fire is an RPG game. If you love the Final Fantasy series, you would have definitely loved Breath of Fire if you haven't played it. If you have a Super Nintendo emulator, I suggest you play that game because it's so freaking amazing. Like I said, the storyline is pretty awesome. It's about stopping an emperor named Zog. I know that sounds weird, but that was his name. So pretty much at the beginning of the game, the hero's town was burnt down and his sister was kidnapped. Now what she was a very strong magic practitioner. I think I said that correctly. And she got kidnapped, and that pretty much starts the game. Your goal is to save her, and there are several level ups in the game. The main character's name is Ryu, and he's a part of the Dragon Clan, and he gets plenty of monstrous dragon transformations throughout the game. And it's fun. The score to that game is one of the best scores I've ever heard in my life playing a video game, man. I mean, just the themes alone get you hooked into the game. And then that story, best Super Nintendo game of all time. I said what I said. Fight me in the comments. Number 3 on my list is going to be Legend of Dragoon. This game was so awesome, man. I mean, the story was just so freaking good, man. If the number 1 game on this list that I am coming to you about never came out, this game would have been the GOAT. It could have been. And I really would like to see them at some point remake this game. Now, let me tell you a little something about me. I'm not the biggest fan of remakes. At all. I feel it's lazy on the developers not to develop a new game and just go back to remakes. But if they're gonna remake a game, this should be it. I mean, this should be it, man. I mean, just the transformations, the dragoons, everything, and every dragoon was specific to every character, every transformation. And the final transformation for Dart, oh man, it was so good. If you've never played Legend of Dragoon, man, you're missing out. You are missing out. That was one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games. And it's number 3 on this list, which is pretty high. But what's number 2? Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Ooh, need I say more? That is my favorite Zelda game within the whole series. It was a very good game, and what I loved about that game was you could switch in between adult Link and child Link. I thought that was pretty cool, and just the whole story, man, it gets you hooked. And there were so many twists and turns in that game, and playing that ocarina, man, was just so peaceful, man. Like, when you play those melodies, my favorite in that whole game, my favorite ocarina melody was the Song of Time. Because I just felt like that ocarina, the Song of Time, man, was just so like peaceful, you know? Like, it just, you play it. Yeah, I did that, and I'm not cutting it out of the video. Oh man, but that game was just so fun, man. And again, the twists and turns. Once you get to adult Link and you go through all the temples, that was so fun, man. I think my favorite temple was the Fire Temple in that game. Had to have been the Fire Temple. And everybody hated the Water Temple. I didn't. I thought the Water Temple was pretty cool. And then you get to fight the water version of Link, and he fights just like Link, and he will block your moves and just have you thinking like, what do I have to do next? You gotta do stuff that you wouldn't normally do to beat him. Like, that was how I beat him. But yeah, high praise for Zelda Ocarina of Time. That goes to number 2 on my list. I was highly disappointed when they came out with Majora's Mask. Like, why didn't they capitalize on Ocarina of Time and give us Ocarina of Time 2? Because we had so many unanswered questions that did not get answered in Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask was... I am at some point going to do the worst video games of all time, retro video games of all time on this channel. Trust me, Majora's Mask will be on there. And my favorite all time to this very day, favorite video game of all time, if you know, you know, Final Fantasy VII, man. Let me tell you about that game. The graphics weren't good, but that's okay. That was the game that came out, the story more than so made up for the bad graphics. That story hooked you in from the beginning to the end. That story hooked you in from Midgar to fighting Sephiroth at the end. And Sephiroth was like one of those villains to where it was like cool to like the bad guy because he was just so awesome. I remember in the town Nephilim where Sephiroth faced off with everybody after he basically destroyed the town and set it ablaze. And Cloud and everybody was looking at him like, yo, what's your deal, man? Like, let's go, let's bang, let's settle this. Sephiroth looked at them like, alright, follow me if you want to settle this. And walked into the fire and did not get scorched or anything. And I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, we gotta fight this guy? This man just walked into the fire and he's fine. Like, I was like, oh man, I don't want to fight him. But I remember when he killed Aeris, I wanted Sephiroth's head on a spike at that point. Like, when he killed Aeris, and he just did it so cold-bloodedly, like, there was nothing you could do. And I remember back when I was younger, I was like, why didn't they just give her a Phoenix Down? Why didn't they do it? And then, as I got older, I understood that Phoenix Down technically brings you back from a knockout, not death, even though you're on the ground and it looks like you're dead. So I always thought that a Phoenix Down would bring you back to life. It's a lot. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII is definitely my top game. The original Final Fantasy VII. Now, Final Fantasy VII, the remake is cool, but man, nothing tops the original. I'm sorry, like, that's just how I feel. What are your top 5 favorite retro games? Did any of the games I mentioned make it to your list? Sound off in the comment section. Let's talk about it. And I'll catch you on the next one.